All right. Let's talk here about Matt LaFleur as we kind of transition a little bit here away from Cincinnati. There's been some buzz out there that Matt LaFleur is potentially on the hot seat as it relates to his job as the head coach of the Green Bay Packers, and it kind of makes me scratch my head a little bit. And I think it's a lot of smoke but no fire, to be completely honest with you. Look, when you look at what has transpired this year for the Green Bay Packers, this is a team that I picked to go to the Super Bowl, right? I had very high expectations for this team, and they've come in and they've lost some games that they shouldn't lose, right? I mean, the Cleveland Brown game early on. What are you doing there? Just not being able to get your offense going, albeit against a really good defense in the Cleveland Browns, but had plenty of opportunities there, and then a horrible turnover from Love late in the game, deep in his own territory, and boom, you lose that game. It's like, all right, whatever, that happens. And then, you tie the Dallas Cowboys, your defense, which, has been a struggle for Green Bay in recent years, but Jeff Hafley's come in. He's done a tremendous job. He's kind of stabilized that unit. By the way, I think Hafley, he should be looked at as a potential head coach here, whether it be this cycle or a cycle here in the near future. The Bengal job becomes open. That's a guy that I've got my eye on, by the way. But then you give up a ton of points there against Dallas, which is a good offense, and you walk away with a tie, which kind of obviously a sour taste in your mouth. That doesn't feel very good to come away with a tie there in that spot. And then here this past week, you lose to the Carolina Panthers. And I understand when you're a good team with good, with Super Bowl aspirations and expectations like the Green Bay Packers have, when you go all in on your season, when you trade multiple first-round picks for Micah Parsons, pay him as well. You need to win, and you can't lose to teams you shouldn't be losing to, and that's probably why there is some noise surrounding Matt LaFleur. But the bottom line is he's been great since he came in here, right? There was questions about how good really was he, because you come in here and you got Aaron Rodgers, who's still at an MVP level. Well, mind you, those two MVPs there that Rodgers won at the end, that's with LaFleur, right? He deserves a lot of credit for that. Aaron Rodgers there, those 2 years, was playing tremendous football, and he had, the decision in the NFC Championship game, the COVID year against Tampa. A lot of people are going to always give him crud for that, especially if he doesn't find a way to win a world championship, not giving Rodgers an opportunity there on fourth down and kicking it. That's a horrible mistake, and people are always going to talk about it unless he ultimately hoists the Vince Lombardi trophy. But when you have a good coach in place and a guy that has a good culture and that has a good offensive mind and is a good play caller and has done tremendous work with the quarterbacks, it's tough to move off, because there's a lot of misses in this league when it comes to head coaches in the NFL, and LaFleur simply is not one. Now, the expectations here this year, he can't go one and done, right? I mean, nobody's even talking about them potentially missing the playoffs. I don't think that's going to happen. They're going to be a playoff team. To be honest with you, I think they're going to win on Monday night against Philly, and I believe they are favorites in that game there as well. But there's a lot of pressure here. When you make a move as a front office, you go out there and you get Micah Parsons. That's a huge move. That's a huge move, and you're seeing this with Indianapolis there as well. Whereas if you trade multiple first-round picks, the expectation is that you're going to win football games and you're going to be deep in the playoffs and in NFC championship games and competing for Super Bowls. And, that's kind of the move. The pressure just turned all the way up on the Indianapolis Colts because they just gave away 2 first-round picks. A year that was going to be a terrific success no matter what. Now, all of a sudden, you give up 2 first-round picks, kind of go all in. A lot more pressure on Indianapolis. Kind of the same case here in Green Bay. I thought they were going to be a team that could compete for a world championship even without Micah Parsons. Oh, you got arguably one of the best pass rushers in the National Football League, and you gave up multiple first-round picks in the process, and you gave him an extension. Well, you better win. And that's just kind of the reality of the situation when you lose to a Carolina Panther team like they just did, a team that's notoriously been literally the worst team in the NFL for what feels like several years. They've found a way this year. They've won some games. Canales deserves some credit for that, but that's why they've kind of turned up, I think, the pressure cooker a little bit there in Green Bay. And a lot of it has to do with his contract there, right? Because you don't see these coaches in the NFL really be sitting ducks, right? LaFleur, after this year, he's hoping for an extension this offseason because it would be a lame duck contract if he went into the 26th year without a new deal. Nobody really does that. McCarthy obviously did it in Dallas, and then he was gone. Coaches don't like to operate like that here in the National Football League this day and age. He's going to want an extension here this offseason, and it's going to be tough for Green Bay to give it to him if they don't even win a playoff game, right, after going out there and trading for Micah Parsons. But when you're at as an organization where Green Bay is at, and you have a foundation in place, and you have really good players, I think it's a mistake to make a change at the head coaching spot. And that's kind of where I'm at with Cincinnati, to be honest with you. It's like you've got Joe Burrow, you've got T. Higgins, you've got Jamar Chase. Offensively, you are there. The defense obviously stinks. And the offensive line obviously has been an issue there as well. But I'm not, I think that's why I'm hesitant to move off Zach Taylor, one of the many reasons why I am. It's like, no, you went all in on those 3 guys. Now you're going to get rid of the head coach that has kind of overseen their development and their growth and the whole process of how they've gotten to this point. I think it's a mistake. Same here for Green Bay, right? Matt LaFleur deserves a ton of credit for what has gone on with Jordan Love. And Jordan Love, I'm a big Jordan Love guy. I think he checks all the boxes. Does he make a couple of silly turnovers? Yeah, but, he's a big dude. Can see over the line of scrimmage really well, finds his playmakers, has a huge arm, which you need in the playoffs when the weather gets cold, especially in Green Bay when the weather is freezing. And Jordan Love can absolutely chuck it. And it's kind of got that effortless power to his throws that, Aaron Rodgers, of course, had for so many years in Green Bay there as well. But I think LaFleur deserves a lot of credit for the growth and development of Jordan Love and where he's at as an NFL quarterback here this year. And I think he's again, he's made some mistakes, but I look at him as a top-tier guy. He's not, Burrow, Jackson, Mahomes, Allen. Let's not get carried away here, but he's a really good quarterback and a quarterback that is good enough to win a world championship. I don't see how you could kind of sit there and say, well, we just kind of went all in here, paying the quarterback. We just traded for this guy that's one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, gave up multiple picks, gave him a big contract. Not giving LaFleur an extension after this year, in my opinion, would be a big-time mistake. But if you continue to lose some games against teams that you shouldn't lose to and, don't win a playoff game, right? And even if you win one playoff game, like it feels like after you make a move like that, you got to get in the NFC Championship if you're the Green Bay Packers. And we'll see. They've got a lot of difficult games on their schedule, right? Obviously we know about that division, right? They still have to go to Detroit, which that's becoming one of the best home field advantages in the National Football League, and that's certainly very noteworthy there as well. And we'll see how they can handle things against Detroit. And obviously Philly this week. Philly had a bit of a rough stretch there, and then they've clearly bounced back from that, and they look like a really good team. Howie Roseman, of course, made some moves. That's going to be a banger of a game on Monday Night Football. I think we're all pretty fired up about that. But there's some difficult games here on their schedule, and they've lost. It's one thing if you're losing to good teams, right? That's going to happen in this league. You're not going to win every game. But if you're losing to the Browns and the Panthers and tying the Cowboys, that's a serious, serious issue, and we'll see if they can bounce back. They've always been good at elevating their performance against really good teams, right? But they've kind of stooped down to their level of competition, at least here in 2025, and it's cost them some football games. And now all of a sudden there's some buzz around LaFleur and his job. But keep in mind, this organization in Green Bay, it is one of the most stable organizations in all of sports, right? All they do is win, right? Obviously, it's well documented what they've done from a quarterback position. Favre, Rodgers, Love. I mean, come on. It doesn't get any better than that. That is just years and years and years of elite quarterback play. You don't have owners that, of course, meddle, right? Obviously, a large chunk of the fan base is there doing that. Guden Kunster, however you say his name, the GM, he's done a really nice job there as well. And look, if this job, by the way, does come open, this has got to be one of the most coveted jobs in the NFL, right? Because you get a really stable organization with, owners that aren't going to meddle. The media, it's just a nice, friendly, local Green Bay media, right? And, it's a history of winning. And you play at Lambeau Field. This would be a huge opening if it became open. But in my opinion, they need to give him an extension this offseason. But that conversation gets a little bit more difficult if you're one and done in the postseason.